Hey everybody, Adam here with Hometown Acres. Welcome back. Today's video is viewer requested. We've had a bunch of requests lately for updates on the CF Moto ATV and side-by-side that we bought. People want to know, now that we've had them for a year or two, how are they holding up? What do we like about it? What don't we like about it? Now, I want to preface this with, if you're looking for a review from somebody that just beats the snot out of their equipment and buries them in mud every single weekend to see how they hold up to that, I'm not your guy. The thought of destroying your machines and treating them like boats just doesn't sit well with me. I take care of my stuff. I like to keep it looking nice. I still use them. The side-by-side we use for firewood, we use for hauling logs out of the woods, we use for snow plowing. The four-wheeler I use to get around the property and do some joy riding with friends through the trails. I'll take Anderson for rides back through the woods with this thing. So we do use them, but we by no means neglect them and abuse them. So just wanted to preface that. If you're gonna sit there and comment and say, oh, well, that guy doesn't use his machines. I use them, I just don't beat them up. So let me introduce these two machines if you've never seen them before. This is my 2021 CF Moto Cforce 600. I've had it for 2 years. It has about 750 miles on it. It is a 600cc engine. This is our side-by-side. It is a CF Moto Uforce 1000. It's a 2022 with about 500 miles on it. So let's open this up with, why did I purchase these machines instead of a more well-known name brand like Polaris, Yamaha, Can-Am, Suzuki, Kawasaki? Well, plain and simple, price. If you look at the rest of the market today, these things are priced well below the rest of the competition. I'm an ex-accountant. I can't help it. I'm inherently cheap. I'm a value shopper. That's what I like to call it instead of calling it cheap. I am a value shopper, and I like to get the most bang for my buck. So let's talk about price. Now, you have to keep in mind the prices we're going to discuss are the prices that I paid for these machines 2 years ago for the four-wheeler and 1 year ago for the side-by-side. So prices have probably gone up because of inflation. So just take that with a grain of salt. But what I paid for this machine 1 year ago, the MSRP was $12,400. After taxes and fees, it was about $14,000 out the door. Now, what came with that? Standard equipment on this machine: a winch, premium wheels and tires, a roof, premium automotive paint job. What else? Power steering comes standard. You cannot buy one of these without power steering. Things that I have since added would be the windshield, the back windshield, the hard doors on here. I believe the total cost of the hard cab enclosure that we added to this machine was about $2,500. The doors were about $900 or $1,000 a piece, so you're looking at about $2,000 for doors. While we're talking about the doors, I thought it would be worthwhile mentioning, if you go price hard doors from Polaris, I think they're about $2,000 a piece. So not only is the machine less expensive, but all of the accessories are going to be less expensive too. And then about $500 to $700 for the front and rear windshield. So all into this machine as it sits, I probably have about $16,500. If you were to go out and price a full cab enclosure Polaris Ranger 1000, you're probably looking in the ballpark of $24,000. Now let's talk about the price of this Cforce 600 ATV. Now, again, I bought this 2 years ago, but when I bought it, the MSRP of this machine right here was $6,400. Out the door after taxes and fees, it was about $7,400. So if you combine the $16,500 and the $7,400 that I paid for these, now keep in mind that is after taxes and fees out the door prices, you are right around what you would pay for a brand new Polaris Ranger 1000 with a full cab. So essentially, by going with the CF Moto brand, you can buy a side-by-side and get a four-wheeler for free. Now, all of that means absolutely nothing. Price doesn't mean anything if it's not a solid product. If you're constantly fixing it, working on it, or having it in the shop, it doesn't matter what you spend on it if you can't use it for what you bought it for. So let's talk about reliability and how they've held up over the years. So we'll start with the ATV since I've had it the longest and I have the most miles on it. This machine has never let me down. I've had no problems with it other than one small slight issue. I never worry about this thing not starting or not running right. It's always been a great running machine. The one small issue that I have had is 1 year I buried this thing in a snowbank. There was a big drift that I didn't see, and I was up to the frame in snow. Couldn't get in, couldn't get out. So I was in two-wheel drive when I hit the snowbank, And what happened was my transmission was in such a bind. I was trying to get it to go into four-wheel drive. So you push this button to put it into four-wheel, it pops down, and then I was trying to get the diff lock to kick on. So once you put it in four-wheel, you flip this lever over, and then you push this to get your diff lock in the front end. What the problem was, because the transmission was in a bind, this would not just flip over easily, and I ended up trying to force it a little bit. So now you can see it's got a little bit of wobble in there. I stripped that plastic a little bit. It still works as it should, but that little bit of wobble just drives me nuts. That is the extent of problems I've had with this machine in the last 2 years that I've owned it. Now let's talk about what I like and don't like about it. What I like about it is things we've already talked about. Price, the amount of standard features. I have not added anything to this machine with the exception of this front basket and the chainsaw scabbard that mounts to the back rack on this thing. By the way, we got these from CFMoto USA parts.com. They're not affiliated with CF Moto. They just make a bunch of third-party aftermarket parts for CF Moto. But everything else that you see on here came standard on the machine. Winch, power steering, automotive paint, premium wheels and tires, hand guards, LED lights. You've got reverse lights on it. Actually, let me show you that real quick. So I'm going to turn the key on here. This is the dash. And then I'm going to put it in reverse. And you can see it actually has backup lights on it. I've never seen another ATV with reverse lights on it. That is so handy for when you're driving at night and you've got to turn around. And aside from all of that, I just really like the looks of this machine. In 2021, when I bought this, I thought, compared to all the other brands, this was one of the sharpest looking ATVs on the market. And that's all personal preference. You may agree or disagree with that, but I think it's a pretty good looking unit. All right, so now let's talk about what I don't like about this machine. And really it comes down to one big issue with CF Moto as a brand as a whole across all of their machines. And that seems to be the drive engagement. Now it's funny, I don't particularly like the drive engagement on either of these machines, but for different reasons. This one is just a little bit different. It's a higher revving machine. It doesn't have as much of that low end torque. The power band seems to sit right above that 10 mile an hour range. So from 0 to 10, it doesn't seem like it has a lot of power and it revs really high, almost like you're in low gear even when you're in high gear. But then once you get to that 10 to 15 miles an hour, it seems to get a lot more peppy and have a little bit more zip. But yeah, it runs a little different than what you're probably used to if you've ever ridden four-wheelers before. It's not horrible, it's just different. I prefer the way a Honda or a Yamaha or a Suzuki run, but I've gotten used to this and I'm fine with it. But I do wish that it had a little bit more of that low end grunt. You know, when you're going around a corner and you want to break the back wheels loose and do a little bit of a power slide, you can do it on this, but it's certainly a lot easier on some of those more low end torquey machines. Now, another thing I would have told you I didn't like about this brand a couple years ago would have been the lack of accessories or aftermarket parts for this brand as a whole, because it was still kind of new and gaining popularity. But that is no longer the case. If you go look at any of the aftermarket ATV or side-by-side parts, accessories manufacturers, they now carry a lot of stuff like this for the CF Moto brand. So that's an issue that is no longer. Now let's talk about the Uforce 1000, things that I like about it, things that I don't like about it. Again, a lot of the standard features we already talked about. I like that. It comes with premium wheels and tires. You know, the worst thing you can do is put a set of, I can't believe that Polaris on their base model side-by-sides is still putting 3-ply Carlisle tires. I mean, the first time you drive it, you're gonna pop the tire. So these come with 6-ply Stag tires. They've got a nice tread pattern on them. Shouldn't need to replace them until you wear them out. Again, styling. I think this is just a really good looking machine. As for what I don't like about it, again, the power delivery is different. And it's much different than this one. The ATV I mentioned, I don't care for because the power band delivery is a little bit weird and different than what you'd be used to. This one is extremely lurchy. Now I will say this, in high gear, it's very smooth. Your takeoff from 0 to 10 miles an hour, very smooth. But Also, what you're sacrificing there is torque. When you're in high gear, if you're starting from a standstill on a hill, you almost feel like you're gonna slip your belt and burn your belt up. So if you're on a hill starting from zero, you've gotta be in low gear. Now, in low gear and reverse, this thing is extremely, extremely lurchy. It's to the point where I don't let anybody drive this unless I have explicitly told them, hey, the gas pedal is really, really touchy. I've had a friend get in this before and go to step on the gas, and you can see himself almost pop his head through the windshield putting it in reverse because he stepped on the gas thinking it was gonna be like a car, and it just took off. So you've got to be really careful. Now that seems to be the biggest knock against the CF Moto brand is the drive engagement. And so there's been a lot of aftermarket folks that have created what's called clutch kits for these machines to make them drive and operate similar to what most people would probably be used to. But what I find what's interesting about that is you don't see Polaris or Honda or Yamaha or Can-Am using these clutch kits aftermarket as often as what a lot of CF Moto owners do, because they come from the factory driving how you would expect them to. So that's probably the biggest knock on CF Moto, is just when you step on the pedal, you don't really get what you're expecting. It still drives and operates fine, and you guys have seen me use these things for the last couple years. They work, they do everything they're supposed to. It's just the feel that you get from them when you step on the pedals a little bit different. Now, back to the Uforce 1000. One other thing, actually there's a couple other things about this that are a little less than desirable. One, the headlights that come on it, even though they are LED, and you've got LED taillights and you've got reverse lights on it, if you're trail riding with this thing at night, these lights do not give you enough light for what you would need, especially if you're on some windy trails and everything. You can see that's why we installed a light bar on the front. And we actually put two little pod lights on the back for backing up. Just to make it a little bit better. But yeah, if you're gonna be doing a lot of night riding, you're gonna have to get a light bar. Not a big deal. Most people with cab side-by-sides add a light bar to their machine anyway. But yeah, definitely a must-have. It's a cheap accessory. I mean, you can get those for $40 to $100 depending on how high a quality and how big of a light bar you want to get. And as we step inside the cab here, one thing I do really like about this is the hard doors on this. Very nice. Good solid latch. Heavy duty door, weather stripping around the outside, well-made doors. I really like that for the wintertime. This is what the inside of the cab looks like. I'll turn on the dash here. Nice display. You know, you've got your two-wheel, four-wheel drive. Here's your headlights, high beam, low beam. You've got your override button for your rev limiter if you're going in reverse or if you have your diff lock on. These are the light bar switches that I added, and here is our switch for the Ramy snowblower that we have. Also, you've got two different modes here, so work and normal. And if you switch those, you can see at the top of the screen right there, we're in normal, but if you switch it to work, it actually changes the display, so it makes it easy to see what mode you're in. I never use that. Honestly, I think that's a feature that probably most people don't use. I pretty much leave it in normal all the time. One thing that I don't know if you heard when I kicked the key on, it does have a fuel injection. So let me turn it off and I'll turn it back on again. So you hear that injecting fuel. One thing that I've found that I don't particularly care for about this machine is sometimes it takes it 2 or 3 key turns to get it to crank over. And I'll see if I can get it to do it here. See, it didn't start there. I don't know why it does that. I've never had a problem with it not starting. I've never been concerned that it's going to leave me stranded in the woods, but occasionally you've got to try it 2 or 3 different times. I don't know why, but see, it started that time. So it always starts, never leaves me stranded, but it's annoying. Like why does it just not start? I don't know if it's the starter or if it's the electronic fuel injection that causes that, but something that drives me nuts about this thing. So here's a look at the back side of the machine. One thing I really do like about this is the towing capacity and the payload capacity. So 1,000 pounds in the bed. You guys have seen me haul lumber, firewood with this thing. And again, that CR Viking from CF Moto Parts USA sent us a chainsaw scabbard to put on there. Very nice. The dump bed, automotive style pickup truck tailgate, and you've got your dump lever on both sides of the machine. And the other nice thing is it's got mud guards all surrounding, protecting the engine bay. I like that. My old Ranger 570 did not have that. I used to get mud caked up inside there all the time. I know we keep talking about these doors, but I wanted to mention this as well. So they are nice, they're solid, they've got weather stripping. They do have this latch on here that you can flip this open, and now you can see it's open to let a draft in. So that's the front side. And then the back side actually has, if you flip that open, flip this blue button, you can now actually pull that out from the latch. And then if you look, you can swing this open and latch it like that. So now you've got a front vent here, and then the whole back window is open. What I'll say about that is it looks like a great design, but in the heat of summertime, 80, 90 degrees, you do not have enough airflow inside this cab. It gets extremely hot. What I actually want to do is I want to replace this windshield with either a flip-up windshield or something that you have the option of being able to vent it and bring more air into the cab. Because what I actually end up doing in the summertime is these doors are not just easy to take off. You can't just pick them up off a pin like you could a Jeep door. So I leave the doors on in the summertime, but I'll take the windshield out to get some airflow inside the cab. I would like it if there was some way that these would just drop on a pin like a Jeep door would. But in order to take this door off, you've got 3 hinges. This one and this one, which would be easy. You've got 3 Allen screws to take out on each one. But then this one is buried under some plastic. So you'd have to remove this plastic, take out the hinge, put it all back together. And it's just not as easy as what I would like, as if you could just lift the door off and be done with it. That would be the ultimate setup, I think. I don't know why they didn't design that to take the door on and off easily. But yeah, something worth noting about these hard doors if you're thinking about getting them. Now, another thing that I do like about the interior of this cab, which is the main reason that we upgraded from our Polaris Ranger 570, is the fact that this machine is 64 inches wide. My old Ranger 570 was a mid-size unit and it was only 58 inches wide, which meant that it was a 2-seater. This one is actually a 3-seater. You've got 3 individual seats, 3 individual seat belts. So now that we have Anderson and Josie, you know, Anderson could sit here, Josie could ride on Lana's lap if we ever take the family out for a ride. And if you're just riding by yourself or you need some extra storage, this center seat back actually folds down into a nice little storage area. You've got places you can set things here, cup holders. You've got cup holders all over this thing. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you've got 5 cup holders in here. I really do like this thing. It is a little bit flimsy and floppy, but I haven't found that to be an issue. This doesn't really get beat up too much, and it clips back right in place if you are ever traveling with 3 people. All right, guys, I think that about wraps up my long-term review of CF Moto as a brand between the 4-wheeler and the side-by-side. Try to be as honest and fair with you guys as I can about what I like and what I don't like about them. I guess the most important question at the end of the day is, would I buy them again? And the answer is yes, absolutely. I think for what you get, for what you pay, you just can't beat it. Like I said, I could buy both of these machines for the price of one Polaris side-by-side. And I don't know about you guys, but I'd rather have both of them than just one. We use both of them quite a bit. I'll use this for work, or if we have friends that come over and we've got to take a bunch of people back in the woods, you know, I can let them drive that, and I can throw Lana on the back of this with me, and we can go trail riding with friends when they come visit. So I'd rather have 2 machines than just one. That's just my opinion. And I may have harped on the drive engagement on these machines more than I should have. It's really not a deal breaker. I probably made it sound worse than it is. It's not that bad. It's just, you don't expect that when you get into it to be that jumpy. Anyway, I already talked about it. You guys know what I mean. It's not that bad, but it is something worth noting. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, give me a big thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.